Your local state representative, Austin Davis, and your state senator, Jim Brewster. So we have an outstanding, just collection of your local leaders here. Do we have any mayors? Do we have any council people? Do we have anyone else in the audience? So, at any rate, thanks for coming out. It's great to Allegheny's my 62nd county, and it's nice to drive 15 minutes from your home to host an event. Normally it's 3 hours or 4 hours to an event. So thanks for coming out on a Saturday here to talk about this. And there are going to be people that feel very passionately pro, passionately against, and we want to create an environment where everybody feels secure to share their views. Let me tell you a story. We just did an event in Pittsburgh, in Homewood, at Community Empowerment. And there was one woman in the entire audience that was opposed to legalization. And she got up and spoke, and I'm like, that takes guts. That takes guts to stand up in a room where you're the only voice against something. And I applaud her. In fact, I even acknowledged her. And everyone was civil. And that's another great point. In 62 counties, we've never had to demand civility, not once. It's always been offered. So regardless of where you are, pro or con, I just ask that we be civil to each other. They actually applauded the woman after she spoke at the last event. And that, to me, is exemplary, the kind of event that we want to run, because this is a true listening tour. We're looking to collect what you think about this issue. And at the end of this event, I do a show of hands, and it's pro or con, and it's all about transparency. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn the mic over to...
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm State Representative Austin Davis. I have the privilege of representing you here in the 35th Legislative District. Thank you all for coming out today on such a beautiful Saturday to voice your concerns and your opinions about such an important topic that's being debated across our state. I'm really here to listen. I love things like this because I think it's important for us as elected officials to hear the concerns and opinions of our constituents. So I'm proud to be here with you this afternoon, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you, and thank you to the Lieutenant Governor, John Fetterman, for bringing this to Allegheny County. I know you've had quite a whirlwind tour at 67 counties. This is quite a large state, so I appreciate you having this robust discussion, and I look forward to being here with you today. And Senator Jim Brewster.
Thank you, Austin. I'm not going to delay the process. Those two said everything, and I couldn't hear anything he said because the mic's in front of him, Okay, so I was guessing what you were saying, Governor. But no, thanks for coming out, all my friends, and I have a few more than this, I think. I just don't know where they're at. But I went to one in Greensburg with Lieutenant Governor. Gina, you were there. It was packed. And it was very interesting. I think you'll be pretty intrigued by the comments some of the folks make, pro and con. And I learned a lot. And I think this is your 62nd county. So he's done all but 5 counties. So he's been busy, and I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor for making the effort to go out and hear what people have to say. So Governor, you're on.
All right, thank you. And actually, to the Senator's point, I'm not on, you guys are. So let's, who wants to break the ice and get this party started?
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Governor, Representative Davis, Senator Brewster. Thank you very, very much for hosting this listening tour. And Lieutenant Governor, I want to especially thank you for taking the time to travel the scope of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and to facilitate an environment, as you said, that brings people together to discuss their issues safely and civilly, in which all viewpoints are welcome and respected. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. What I would like to do is bring us back to where we started with this idea of cannabis prohibition. As we talk about whether or not cannabis should be legalized or should remain criminalized, it's important to understand how we got here. And we got here because of lies, racism, and a political agenda, both in the 1930s and then in the 1970s, that criminalized a plant with absolutely no study or other determination that it warranted prohibition under the criminal justice system. In the 1930s, Altoona's own Harry Ansinger decided that he needed a new job. Alcohol had been, prohibition had been repealed. So Harry Anslinger, along with the Hearst Corporation, started to share these salacious stories about this evil new drug being brought across the border by Mexican immigrants called marijuana. They never called it cannabis. They ignored the fact that cannabis was a medicine that was routinely available throughout the United States and was in the physician's desk reference. They ignored the fact that the United States had a vibrant hemp industry that was providing hemp products, and that's exactly why Hearst got involved, because by taking hemp out of the equation, now Hearst does not have any competition for his wood, paper, his giant tracts of forest that he owned that the Hearst Corporation owned in California. And together, they were able to create this image of a violence-inducing drug, playing on the racist fears of dark-skinned immigrants coming across the border to the United States, playing on the fears that this would cause people of color to think that they were better than the white man. Actual congressional testimony by Harry Anslinger. That led to the first prohibition of cannabis under the Marijuana Tax Stamp Act. President Nixon in 1970, however, did Anslinger one better with the Controlled Substances Act. He, along with Congress, decided to create a broad scheduling of controlled substances, and in the process made cannabis a Schedule I controlled substance, awaiting the outcome of a report from Governor Schaefer. And in the process, they criminalized it as a Schedule I controlled substance. And the most important, or what I think is the concerning part of this, is that Richard Nixon's own domestic policy advisor, John Ehrlichman, admitted years later that they knew marijuana was not the problem they were making it out to be, but they needed to criminalize it so they could break up the anti-war movement that was in the streets against President Nixon. Against that background, ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to understand that cannabis prohibition was never based on science or reality or any objective measure that it was a dangerous drug. Lieutenant Governor, Representative Davis, Senator Brewster, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, at the risk of causing some whiplash for the audience, Lieutenant Governor Keith Robbins, thank you for coming down to the audience.
No, thank you for coming out.
I do have great concerns about legalization. I spent a number of years talking about really the effort to get people back in the game. Universal engagement, universal empowerment, seeing people with marginalized and sidelined, and understanding that drugs do play a part in marginalizing people, pushing people aside. And we can look at the science of marijuana, what it does. We can look at what the NIH, National Institutes of Health, the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, the World Health Organization. This is an addictive substance. It is. And we test for it. There's increasing drug driving in Colorado. So just to think that legalization is going to be great, everybody gets to be out there, we're going to make a lot of money. The money you never realize. We don't realize the revenues. The states do not realize the revenues being profitable. And at the same time, we're having a real problem finding people who do fill jobs. I mean, you're seeing this as you as employers. The workers that we need to go into these positions as a trades or whatever, the last thing we need is to have the law change and say, let's go all in with legalizing marijuana. Look, we just legalize use for CBD. Let's look at that. Let's see how that goes. Let's continue to test that. But full-scale legalization is going to come with all due respect. I think we have to go. Thank you.
The comment, may I ask you a question in earnest?
Sure.
How do you feel about medical cannabis here in Pennsylvania? Do you support it, or would you against it?
I've supported efforts to do more research. I certainly have had constituents coming in the time I was in service, where people talked anecdotally about how it helped with seizures, and yeah, let's take a look at that. We just legalized it. Let's see how it goes. But that doesn't mean we go full-scale legalization. That's CBD. That's not marijuana. That's not THC.
And then, sir, one last question. What are your thoughts on the option of decriminalization.
Yeah.
And I asked this of people.
Absolutely. All four criminal justice reform, I was working on criminal justice reform issues, the First Step Act, that EBE got through, that is now law. And certainly, we have to be aware of the issues going on in certain communities about incarceration. But look, that's a different issue. We can address that with other kinds of reforms, but that doesn't include a full-scale legalization where you will benefit a small group of investors who will stand and make a lot of money and make big profits. And as the advertising, you see this in Colorado, where are the advertising? Where are they picking up their shops? Low-income communities of color. This is, again, anybody going to this, that's why I know.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Next speaker. Sir, grab three microphones.
Yep.
Thank you. That's all now. And I want to just echo what has been said. Thank you very much for coming, and we appreciate everything that you're doing to try to hear everyone. I'm Bill Markle. I'm a doctor here in Peaceport, serving the underserved as much as I can, and live in Fetterman. And I know Gina very well. We work a little bit together. And so when you talk about medical marijuana, I have seen benefits to that. I've seen people who have benefited from it. I will say this though, I also have seen people that tell me it doesn't do anything for them. They got to smoke the real stuff to get any benefit. So that's what I've seen. My only concern with medical marijuana is that it's not regulated very well. The FDA isn't allowed to regulate that, and as a result, you never are entirely sure what you're getting. There are contaminants in some of these things, and you have to be a little concerned about that. So I think we need better control over it a little bit, but certainly there's a benefit there to be had. To go back to the main issue, can I just ask one question? Which states have you looked at that have legalized marijuana to get other data from? Has there been other states?
Officially, none in the capacity. We're strictly on an information gathering tour. And I asked Congressman Rothfuss those questions because we're trying to understand what Pennsylvanians' views are on cannabis, and whether it's medical, whether it's decriminalization. So we're just trying to find out really the different viewpoints.
Okay, because I mean, a number of states have legalized it now, and there's data out there. There's experience that I think would be beneficial to Pennsylvania. The issue of decriminalization versus legalization, I think, is very, very important. I agree with decriminalization. There's no reason to be throwing people in jail for long periods of time, ruining people's lives because they happen to smoke a little pot. I don't have a problem with that. And I think we can decriminalize it without full-scale legalization of it. Once you legalize and fully, just as has been said, you invite in big money interests into the state to start selling all kinds of marijuana products and making big money from it. In New York, for example, as you probably know, they're looking at this right now, and they're having second thoughts about the whole idea of legalization. When big money interests come in, they're interested in one thing: getting more people to use the stuff and getting people to use it at higher and higher concentrations. And when it's said it's not addicting, it is addicting when you get at higher levels of marijuana. And that's a medical fact. When you get to higher levels of marijuana, people are unable to stop using it. It becomes an addicting substance. And we're talking about THC now, I'm sorry, THC. And that's what they're doing. They're making THC concentrates, where you have to hot knife the stuff, little crumbs of it, and inhale massive doses of THC. It's called dabbing. I don't know, somebody laughing. It's called dabbing, and very, very dangerous. People have had psychotic reactions, people have had suicide reactions, and so on. I'm trying to read my notes here. My wife said I wrote it too small, and I probably did. Can't read it. But in the old days, in the 1970s, as was said over here, marijuana that you smoked had about 2% THC, 1-2%. Nowadays, they've bred the plants to have 40% THC. The average is about 15% nowadays. And then when you concentrate it, you can get way up to about 90% THC. That's why you can only use a tiny crumb of it. And then the big money interests put it into all kinds of other things to sell it. Put it in gummy bears, brownies, Coca-Cola, coffee, ice cream, just about anything you can imagine. You can put THC in there and get people to using this. And sometimes it's very dangerous. In one gummy bear in Colorado, the allowed serving of THC in Colorado is 10 milligrams. They put 40 milligrams into a gummy bear, okay, and say that the serving size is a fourth of a gummy bear. Well, nobody eats a fourth of a gummy bear, I don't think. I've never done that, and I don't know anybody that does that. And in a Coca-Cola bottle, the serving size is 1/35 of the bottle. Well, who does that? And so you're getting higher doses. People have eaten a cookie with THC infused into it and committed suicide. They've had psychotic reactions because they're not used to taking it and the dosages are high. The biggest concern is giving it to children, and that should be illegal, I think. Driving under the influence of marijuana. There were 100 deaths in Colorado in 2015 due to marijuana impaired drivers. And these are the serious problems, I think, that we're seeing. So I would say we don't want to bring full legalization into the state.
So, doctor, is it safe to say you are opposed to legalization recreationally, you're okay with it medically, and you support decriminalization aspect of it?
Basically, and I don't care if you want to grow some marijuana in your backyard and smoke a joint once in a while. I don't care. You know, that's not the problem. The problem would be if you did that and gave it to a child, or you went out and drove under the influence. That would be the problem.
Okay.
But otherwise, yes, I agree.
Thank you for sharing. We got to check that microphone stand out.
Okay. I thank you for coming today. I'm so excited to maybe get a chance to speak. And I would like to really applaud the gentleman who spoke before me, all of them, because they were so eloquent. I have used marijuana in every form since I was a teenager. Not continually, but last year, because of chronic pain that nothing was solving, I became a medical marijuana patient. I had severe pain, and the products that I purchased at the dispensary relaxed me, but it really did not make my pain go away. I had a structural skeletal problem and needed neurosurgery. So now I'm not a medical marijuana patient anymore, but I have traveled to other states, particularly Nevada, where it's legal recreationally. And I just want to make the point that what I purchased in Nevada was about half the cost of what the Pennsylvania dispensaries charged for the same product, seemingly the same product. So if it were decriminalized and legalized, wouldn't it wouldn't the prices come down for medical patients? And also, it would reduce crime. I think there have been studies in these states that have legalized recreational marijuana. I saw a billboard the other day on one of the highways that said, legalizing recreational marijuana results in an X% reduction in opiate prescriptions. I think that opiates are a real problem, and if people can get off of them and maybe benefit from using marijuana for anxiety and all kinds of other things, I think it'd be worth it. So I'm strongly in favor of recreational marijuana and also decriminalization.
Well, as an aside, based on your comments, it's interesting that in 62 counties, I can't recall a single individual that medical marijuana wasn't able to help with their pain. So it's unique. I'm not saying they don't exist.
I know they do exist,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
mine was a struck my neck.
No, I know. I'm
Yeah.
just talking that you're one of the reasons why we do these kind of town halls is to
Right.
hear from all different perspectives. And the point that you raised about legalization dropping the price of medically so people can afford it is perhaps the number one concern that we hear across the board, especially among medical patients, saying, I can't afford it.
It's
I
very
can't afford to get
expensive.
what I want. So your experience is unique to you, but also very common to what we've heard. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Good evening, my name is Dan Rehawk, I'm from Pleasant Hills, and I've got a book that I'd be glad to share with you and let you take with you if you want, or at least get you the title of it. My reading and knowledge, or gained knowledge from a DEA agent and from some others who've talked to people, talked to sheriffs, Pennsylvania state representatives, talked to sheriffs from Colorado. They talk about the increased crime. Not decreased crime, there's increased crime in Colorado. The sale of other illicit drugs in Colorado has become much worse because there's not a market for the marijuana now from an illegal sales standpoint. So they have turned to other drugs to increase their sales. Marijuana is not the marijuana of maybe the 30s and even the 70s, as the doctor said. According to the authors of this book, a joint used to have 5 to 10 milligrams of THC. It's more like 100 now. It's extremely potent. And they do add, as he also said, more to it. It's not controlled as to how many milligrams are in there. And there is a strong association between marijuana use, especially today, mental illness, psychosis, schizophrenia, and violence. Of course, you know, one of the things people used to talk about with marijuana is the paranoia. Some kind of like that thing. That's mental illness, and we're going to make this stuff worse. We're worried about opioids. It is a gateway drug, absolutely a gateway drug, especially today because of the potency. And as my DEA agent friend said, he says when you are using it, you find yourself in the company of people that then have stronger drugs. So either, you know, it may be a chemical gateway or just a who you're hanging with gateway. But these things are worse, and I don't think we need to do an experiment here in Pennsylvania. The experiment's being done in Colorado. I had a client of mine just the other day that had spent some time in Denver. He says, you can't walk the streets of Denver without smelling marijuana in the air. Is that really what we want in Pennsylvania? I just think it's a dangerous road to go down. The medical marijuana side of things, there's really only 2 things right now that it's been shown effective for. That's some seizure disorders, especially in children, and for chemotherapy, for nausea and stuff related to chemotherapy. Otherwise, there's no strong evidence of it helping with any of the other things that it's claimed to be used for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
How you doing, Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Brewster? I'm from North Versailles. I could probably tell you that I am for it, and there's many reasons. It's good to hear, sorry. the other side to understand what they see, hear, and know, think they know. You know, the hot knife, using stuff like that. Yeah, it's called dabbing. But instead of rolling the whole plant up and smoking it, they actually want to get the THC in a medical form of it. They're just vaporizing it. That's why they're not smoking it. Because when you smoke, you actually get more carcinogens than when you vape it. That's why the law is the way that it's written. And yeah, you can put it in pop. Yeah, you can put it in food. You know why? Because my father, someone like him who had cancer, throat cancer, right here over Thanksgiving, he couldn't eat his food. You know why? It burned. He didn't want to eat. He got himself, acquired some distillate, which you could put in a cookie or something. He was able to eat that, and not only did he feel good, he got his taste buds back to actually make him want to eat, so he was able to enjoy his Thanksgiving dinner. So that's why he could put it in food. He had throat cancer. He couldn't smoke a joint or do anything like that to medicate himself to help him in the situation. So there is a lot of benefits. Myself, I'm a car driver. I was never so glad when the state of Pennsylvania did that. I've been struggling with PTSD from running on fire calls. I worked at a funeral home. I put over 500 people on the ground, including women, children, everything else. This is one of the best things that ever happened. I took anxiety meds, been through it, ain't fun. So the side effects are even worse. You think getting off pills is bad? I could get off marijuana tomorrow. Everyone say you get withdrawal, and oh, well, you're with marijuana, so you might use hard drugs. So people that go to the bar, are they prone to use cocaine because that's the hard drug of the bar? No, not at all. So, and stating that, I can't go out and take a drink and drive a vehicle because I will be completely not able to. One drink, I'm 127 pounds. I ain't getting behind the wheel for at least a couple hours. I ain't getting out of the parking lot. I can take a hit of my medication or whatever, or marijuana. I could drive. I'm not going to say I can't smoke joint after joint and drive, but the same amount I could still do. I'm not condoning it and driving it, but there's a big difference. And yeah, there might have been 100 deaths in Colorado because of medical or because of marijuana, but check the stats still on alcohol. You know what I mean? It's always propaganda. I'm fully for it. I'm a firefighter. I'm a member of the community. You know, I know I'm a young person, but I'm gonna stand up here for everyone that's for it. I'm very much for it.
Okay, all right, thank you for sharing.
Hello, thank you for coming. My name is Teresa. I am a mother, and I am also a cancer survivor. I am also a medical marijuana patient in our state. Like you said, you've heard stories about how it's helped people tremendously. When I was going through chemotherapy, medical marijuana was not available to me, but the side effects from my chemotherapy caused me to have some pretty bad neuropathy in my fingers and my toes. And the doctors wanted me on gabapentin and a few other things, but I was able to use RSO instead, which is a highly potent cannabis product. It's over 90% potent sometimes. For someone with cancer, just like someone with chronic pain, you may need higher amounts of THC or THCA or THCV or one of the other 400 different cannabinoids that exist in the plant to feel better. If you're actually in pain and actually suffering, it doesn't affect you in the same way as someone taking it recreationally. So what I do for a living is I work in the Medical Marijuana Education Center. Every day I hear people coming in giving me anecdotal evidence, which I know is not necessarily FDA-approved double-blind studies or anything, but they come in and they tell me how this has changed their life. Many people, though, are still really afraid to get a medical marijuana card, particularly veterans. They're people who otherwise are law-abiding citizens. They really want to follow the law to a T, and there's still so much stigma and shame around it that they need legalization to finally get over the final hurdle of actually trying the products. I'll say that a lot of the statistics that you've heard from some of the people that have been here before me regarding teen use, DUI, and the gateway myth have all been recently debunked by the recent Colorado studies that came out last week by the Safety Commission, along with the police officers and everyone else who works together that are probably cited in the book that this guy just brought up here. So, teen use, DUI, all those things have gone down. Marijuana-only DUIs have gone down or remained static. No one is getting behind a car only on marijuana and crashing their car into a tree or hitting pedestrians. That is insane. Yeah, marijuana is not a panacea, and it's certainly a drug, and it's certainly not for everybody at every dose. But it is not a super addictive drug that's going to make people murder people or move on to harder drugs. The National Institute of Health, a legit government-backed organization, has concluded that AAA, the group that spends so much money trying to make sure that our roads are safe, originally was against medical marijuana because of the DUI, and has recently reversed their stances and has even said that there are no legal standards that you can test to see if someone's impaired or not, considering how marijuana is not like alcohol in the effect, it doesn't impair you in the same way. Everything that everyone's coming up here against and citing, DUI, teen use, gateway, the fact that it's more pure and potent, these can all be debunked easily with citations from government organizations. I'll be happy to provide that information. It's my job. I'll literally give everyone cards, and I won't give you some propaganda from a dispensary, but I'll give you something from the actual government. Right now, we're working on legalization in our state. We have 2 bills. One of them would allow for TR growing licenses and for home grow. These are things that we need so that everyone has an opportunity to be a part of the program and to have access to our medicine. With 21 qualifying conditions, with 2 more being added recently by the Patient Advocacy Board, those are not enough conditions. We need people to have access to this plant, and if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. There are more states than Colorado that exist that are legalized, and none of these states are on fire. I have been to these states. Yeah, it may smell like marijuana some places, but that is a much better alternative than locking people up, ruining families, and ruining job opportunities. And it's not the fact that marijuana makes people incapable of holding jobs. It's the fact that arbitrary drug testing for a non-intoxicating or non-addicting plant that doesn't cause you to be violent or incoherent is being tested for because of drug testing corporations that have interest in selling their products. Luckily for us, during the recent conference in Harrisburg, even the people who were against it came together and agreed that we need different DUI standards. So there is hope, but I've been to many other states, most of the states that have been legalized, and the world is not falling down. And I'm for legalization and decrim, whatever moves us forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for coming today. Senator Brewster, Representative Davis, thank you for all you do for our community. I'm Gabe Perlow. I'm the CEO of PurePen. We are a medical marijuana grower processor located in Keysport, right in the RIDC park here. What I primarily want to talk about is the benefits that medical marijuana has brought to the Commonwealth, and particularly the Keysport area. I could stand here and debate people on the things that Teresa brought up recently, but she did a fantastic job of it, so I'm not going to touch much on that. But we do create a highly concentrated medical marijuana product that frequently tests at 90 to 99% THCA or Delta-9 activated psychoactive THC. Our patients find great relief from this product. I've never heard an instance of anyone having a psychotic episode or gaining some kind of intense physical dependence on these products. Their dependence is mostly because of the pain that they're feeling. You can equate cannabis use and compare it with the negatives of almost anything. But the negatives of alcohol, of opioids, of other illicit drugs far outweigh the negative impacts of cannabis, like Teresa alluded to. But what I want to talk about is what we've done here in Keysport. We've built a 21,000 square foot growing processing facility. We have 42 current full-time employees. Our employees have, the starting salary for our employees is double the minimum wage. We provide a retirement plan. We provide full dental, medical benefits, life insurance for our employees. We try to treat our employees really well, like they're members of our family, and set them up with family-sustaining jobs and careers. that, in the world that we're in today, they can take the skills that they gain in our facility and go to almost any state, now multiple countries, and have real careers where they can enhance their entrepreneurial spirit and start new businesses or get really well high-paying jobs. So jobs is the biggest. Job creation is something we need in our country. Rather than shipping manufacturing jobs overseas, we need to be bringing those jobs back here to the U.S. We've given Canada a leg up on us by going full recreational and adult use in Canada, and the industry is just booming there. Canopy Growth's 500,000 square foot facility dwarfs our 21,000 square foot facility, and the employee count probably is right there with it. And we need those jobs here. We need to keep them in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And people make it a negative that big business, big interests are going to come in if we create an adult use program. They're already here with the medical program. Our medical program primarily consists of out-of-state interests that use out-of-state attorneys, that use out-of-state accountants, that have their top executives out of state. The money from our medical patients that are going to those companies to fund their operations are primarily going out of state. That's one of the things we're proud about. That we're a Pennsylvania-owned and operated company. Everything we do stays here in the Commonwealth. Our lawyers are here, our accountants are here, our insurance agents are here, our employees are here. The benefit of that is we're putting payroll taxes that go to McKeesport. We're putting a building back on the tax roll that was a vacant former steel mill site that's been sitting vacant since that mill closed in McKeesport. So it's not a negative that the American spirit and the American dream of creating a job and a life for your family is being enhanced by a new industry. We're just getting behind the 8 ball the longer we wait to let that dream really materialize. So that's a big part of it for me is the longer we wait, New York is going to go adult use, New Jersey is going to go adult use, Ohio probably won't be far behind it. These states are going to be taking those benefits that should be staying in Pennsylvania when we're going to be missing out. So the longer we wait, the more we miss out in that respect. Also for McKeesport's benefit, we've started a community fund here. Our community fund, the McKeesport Community Fund, we've already funded with just over $100,000. We've made a commitment that we'll fund it a minimum of $50,000 a year or 0.5% of our gross profits. And so I look forward to that continuing to grow. I sit on the board of it. Senator Brewster's daughter is on the board, and we've given all that money back to the community. It's money for the community and dispersed by the community. We have a fantastic community liaison that's been working with us since the beginning of the program's initiation in Pennsylvania. We try to be good neighbors, and I always say, in the spirit of Pittsburgh and Fred Rogers, we want to be good neighbors. We don't want to be that nuisance property that nobody wants to walk by. We're right on the Great Allegheny Passage. We got thousands of bike riders going by our facility, and not one of them has complained about odors or smells emanating from our facility, which has quite potent and quite strong smelling plants inside of it. But this program in Pennsylvania, the medical program, has been the gold standard, in my opinion, for the United States. The way it's been regulated by the Department of Health has been fantastic. The contaminants or any kind of issues with the product are non-existent. We test our product when we harvest it. We test it at the final product stage, so our patients know exactly what they're getting. And I would think that would roll over to the recreational program too. What our company is in favor of is rolling out a responsible adult use program that leverages the existing infrastructure that the state has so strongly put into place, and creating new opportunities for Pennsylvanians, creating new grow opportunities, creating new dispensing opportunities, processing opportunities such as bakeries. These are things that you don't need to be a public company or have massive bankroll to start. Anyone can start a bakery, and if we make it accessible and we regulate it the way we're doing, we have a whole new industry that's for Pennsylvania by Pennsylvania.
Okay, thank you.
Hello there. Hi there, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you so much for joining us today, especially here in Pennsylvania. This is such an important issue to people across the Commonwealth. Cannabis will intersect lives from every corner of Pennsylvania, and we have an opportunity to make a positive impact in that way. My name is Gina Rosso. I'm the community liaison for PurePen that my boss Gabe there was just spoke of. We have the facts and we know a lot of things. We have a lot of what we touched on, Teresa, thank you so much. For the studies out of Colorado, we had a 5-year study, and this is the anti-legalization folks that we're talking about that are not afraid of this, and they're seeing the benefit from tax revenue. And there may be some concern about maybe the tax revenue isn't there. I'm not sure. We don't know unless we try and we take this opportunity. The perspective that I have, that I want to offer, a lot of this that we hear today is rooted in fear and concern. I've had a very unique perspective on the rollout of this medical program. It's been beautiful. We have a facility that is bursting with pride. People who are so proud of what they do, what they make, who they are, and where they're doing it. I see such a change in the people that we have in our facility and people across McKeesport. And I want every community in Pennsylvania to have that opportunity, to have valuable work and good, decent jobs in their own communities. And I think that opportunity is here to inspire certainly young people to take this opportunity and to give it for us all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I did just want to add, if there's anybody here who has any questions ever, I'm always available and I'll give my contact information if you'd like to talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to be here and thank you for being here. My name is Pat. I'm from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. I'm a health professional, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I'm a concerned citizen. It's been good to hear both sides of this issue. And my heart goes out to you as you're dealing with your illness. And I'm glad that you've been able to find some relief with medical marijuana. And I am not against medical marijuana. And I am not for criminalization of marijuana use. However, I do have concerns, and I don't think there's anything wrong with people who have concerns. I speak from my experience. Marijuana can be addictive. I know there are people who think that it is not, but for certain individuals, it can certainly be addictive. It could cause havoc in families. It can cause careers to be sidelined and lifelong goals to be lost. I've seen that happen. And you know, in our country, when something is considered legal, well, it becomes acceptable. And I worry a lot about adolescents, because when adolescents learn that something's legal, they of course think it's acceptable also. We've learned a lot about the adolescent brain and the effect of cannabis on the adolescent brain. It affects certain areas of the brain. They actually researched where even 1 or 2 experiences with marijuana can affect that particular person's brains. They've done this with MRI studies. Other people have addressed some of the other concerns and done it very, very well. There are over 400 chemicals in marijuana. Marijuana cigarette has 4 times the tar of a regular cigarette. So I won't go into any more of those. But one of the most disturbing effects of use of marijuana is that it decreases people's motivation. I don't want to see a whole state, see across our state where young people having decreased motivation as they go about their lives. I do think we need to learn from the experience of others. Finland and Denmark do keep very close records on mental illness. We do not do such here in our country. But their records have shown a significant increase in psychosis since the use of cannabis was increased in the year 2000. I won't go into the car crashes. I would actually ask to have the information from you folks who have more recent studies. I'd be happy to have that. And I would just close by saying that what becomes legal becomes acceptable. And I don't think any increase in tax revenue is worth the profound effects of marijuana use. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
Afternoon, everybody. My name's Matt. Thanks for hosting this. At this point, I think we've heard a lot of different points from both sides. The point I want to make goes to fairness, if you will. I think at this day and age, you can go on the internet and you can find information that reflects anything you want to hear. They actually use that in things like Google and Facebook, where if you look at your social media, they've developed algorithms that only show you things that are relative to your frame of mind and your politics, views, so on and so forth. So when I think of adult use or decriminalization or even medical, at this point with medical, I think it's hard to argue that it doesn't change lives. For some people, and not for everybody, it can be life-changing. People with seizures or debilitating diseases or conditions. On the side of recreational, there may be some people that are currently using marijuana illegally and will continue to, so regardless of what the life is, because at the end of the day, people like to come home, some people might enjoy having a beer or a glass of wine and so on and so forth. I don't think, if marijuana or cannabis can positively affect your life and put you in a better mood, or you can play with your kids or be, more active or wherever it may be, I don't think that should be criminalized. What I think is concerning is things like DUIs, cannabis-related, it doesn't happen. And additionally, things like alcohol. I mean, those stats, you cannot argue. It happens every day. Prescription drugs, you can't watch the television right now without seeing large companies that have money to do whatever they want, to leverage laws, or do whatever, fast-track drugs through the FDA process, and get that in the hands of young adults, older adults that have severe side effects. Watch those commercials and look at the side effects that they have, but yet that is legal. You can't go to jail of popping a new drug that is hit on the scene that's supposed to fix, now my skin's a little bit clearer, but yet I'm crashing my car because of that. So when I think about adult use, I think about fairness. Look at alcohol, look at prescription drugs and those industries. Cannabis should not be put in the same category as those things, because it does not. It doesn't do the same things. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Brian. I'm from downtown Pittsburgh, and I recently moved here from West Virginia. Didn't really practice what I was going to say. I appreciate both sides of the opinion. I'm a healthcare professional as well, and I work with lots of patients who come in emergently. The use of marijuana is already happening from all walks of life, all kinds of people you wouldn't typically expect. It's here, it's been here for a long time. So I would just counter the argument about a big social change in that you're just shedding light on something that's already there, and you can benefit economically. That's a large source of money that could be put to very good use by the government. My dad is a lawyer, and we always kind of had a strict obeyance of the law, so I'm not a user myself, but the desire is there. I don't sleep well, and I know lots of people that I work with who use it for that. My dad has congestive heart failure, and he's very rigid in his following the law theory, but I can see opportunities where he could get relief but he wouldn't do it unless it was legal. Now, he's in West Virginia, but that's different. I just think it's been going on. Who gets in trouble for it is not as fair as it could be. Lots of African Americans and minorities are higher criminalized when I know whites use it just as much. And that costs the state also in incriminating and paying for the jailing of people, disrupts families. I don't think there would be a big difference with the legalization. I only see benefits. So, sorry I didn't practice and I kind of rambled, but that's my opinion. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have to leave early, so I really was not planning on speaking. Good afternoon to you three. Thank you for coming. You know, there are several different angles that have been discussed about this, and I'm glad that color did come up, because I think this is going to be hazardous and extremely detrimental for the African American community. You go back to everything from alcohol to cigarettes. I remember growing up in the eastern part. I grew up in Penn Hills, had to drive through Homer, had to drive through Wilkinsburg. You didn't see Newport signs in Fox Chapel. You don't see Newport signs in Wexford, but you saw them all over the place in Homewood. And then when you start seeing who was dropping dead of cancer 15 to 20 years earlier than the rest of the population, it just so happened to be African Americans. You start talking about legalization of marijuana in places such as Colorado and Washington. Do people know that when you legalize marijuana in those states, that the crackdown on people selling dime bags jumps up in those states against African Americans in lower income communities? The studies are there. So you're not going to talk about it alleviating the decriminalization, which I do think needs to happen. But in many instances, that was an unintended effect. Those communities were further harshly criticized. When you already have stop and frisk, where African Americans are getting picked up for marijuana anywhere from 8 to 12 times as much as whites, you're asking for trouble. Now, we're sitting in a city that just had another study saying this is one of the worst cities in the United States for African Americans when it comes to income, where they live, how they work, how their lifestyles go, and even life expectancy. And that has been going on for 30 plus years in this region. The last thing we want to do in a region like this is supposed to be the most livable city in a state that's one of the hardest outside of Philadelphia for African Americans in the country, is put another thing in place where African Americans are already behind, knowing full well when you allow capitalism to come into this, those communities are going to be targeted harder. They're already going to have bad schools. They're already going to be last hired, first fired. You're setting up the black community for failure. And I know there's other angles that you can take on this, but after listening to this for an hour, that's mine. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kenton. I just want to say thanks to everyone on both sides of the issue. Thank you, gentlemen, especially Lieutenant Governor, thank you. I actually wrote you a pretty detailed letter on my thoughts on the issue. I personally am a very staunch supporter of cannabis and hemp as economic drivers, as medication, all these different things. But I think the most important part of this whole discussion is that this is a civil liberties issue. When you boil down to it, we live in a free democratic society, right? We're free to choose what we put in our bodies, how we recreate, how we spend our time, what's important to us. I mean, cannabis in and of itself, a raw cannabis plant growing, is not a drug. It's a medicator at the end of the day. We can treat it like a drug. Sure, you can concentrate it in various forms, bake it into treats, whatever you want to do, but at the end of the day, it's a medicated herb. And it's only slightly more dangerous than a tomato, in my opinion. So I think we need to treat it that way. I don't really think that it's the government's right or place to tell us that if you want to, and I know people have these perceived risks or whatever you might want to call it, but I think that that is our right to take those perceived risks on. If you want to consume it, if it gives you a quality of life that is better than it was without it, then you're an American. That's what this is all about. It's just a mass hypocrisy that you can buy tobacco, how many hundreds of known carcinogens at any corner store, alcohol. I mean, you want to talk about psychosis, go down the south side and hang out around the bars. I mean, that's psychosis if I've ever seen it. I just don't think that it's fair to crack down on people for doing something that is less harmful to themselves and others. And the hypocrisy, you know, with us taxpayers paying for these people to waste their lives in jail over a little bit of a medicated herb in their pocket or what have you, I just don't think it's very American at this point. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the most important things with legalization is the social injustice, and that these people aren't really, they're breaking the law, but they're not doing anything wrong. You know, it's more of a civil disobedience thing in my mind. So I think we just need to take that into consideration, that at the end of the day, what do we need the government to tell us not to do it? Or as a free, you know, informed American, can you figure out what you want to do on your own? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jake Darwood. I'm a college student in Philadelphia. And I spent my spring break this year in Portugal. In 2001, Portugal decriminalized all drugs with no distinction between marijuana, heroin, cocaine, ecstasy, anything like that. And when they did it, it was really unpopular. And there were a lot of concerns that drug usage would increase, that deaths would increase, that overdoses would increase. And those were all very unfounded concerns. And so while I think it's good that the conversation starts here with the legalization of marijuana, it needs to go a step further, to the decriminalization of all drugs. Because what Portugal has found is that by decriminalizing drugs, and by beginning to treat the addiction as a medical issue, which it is, that you're able to decrease drug usage rates, that you decrease your overdose rates. And while we were there, we had a chance to talk to health officials, to politicians, to criminal justice officials. We spoke to the Portuguese equivalent of the FBI. And most people did not support the decriminalization when it happened in 2001. But if you were to ask them now, they see the benefit. It takes a leap of faith, but it's a leap of faith that we as a state, and really as a country, should be following suit and moving to decriminalize all drugs.
Third call to the floor. Okay.
Hi, thanks for coming out to Keysburg to listen to us here. My name is Allie, I'm from White Oak. I spent many years also living in Duquesne, across the river from Bradley, which you know so well. Anyways, one thing that stood out to me that I heard today, when something becomes legal, it becomes acceptable. We have come to accept liver cancer. We have come to accept lung cancer. We've come to accept mental problems. We've come to accept heart problems. These are things that come from not only, but largely from the use of alcohol, tobacco, both legal, both have big business surrounding them, coming down on all of us by this, targeting different segments of society. So, therefore, I think that if we are going to continue our criminalization of marijuana, which is an herb, then we need to go back to prohibition. Alcohol needs to be totally illegal. People drink, they go out and crash their cars. Check the statistics. I'm sorry I don't have the statistics with me, but it's like at least half of deaths are caused by drunk drivers. And a lot of other problems, domestic abuse, we could go on and on. A lot of health problems. So if we're going to continue to maintain that marijuana is such a terrible drug that people need to be locked up for having possession of or whatever, we need to also go back and criminalize alcohol. It should be totally illegal, and tobacco too, because this is social injustice. And what we're experiencing here is the fear-based morals of some people being imposed upon others. And so, if we're not going to do that, then we should legalize the marijuana. In fact, I agree with the college student. If we were to legalize all drugs, we could regulate them all. The drug cartels would instantly be vanquished. They would no longer cease. Because it would all be legal, it would all go through legal channels, it would be taxed, we'd make a lot of money off of this, instead of spending money on the war on drugs. So, that's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, final call to the floor.
My name is Jared from White Oak. So thank you for coming down and listening. I'm actually for, but I'm for the medical marijuana. I think that basically, I think it should just be put to a vote. Like, why wouldn't we just, is that what you're trying to do? Gather the information and.
Just trying to gather information. Pennsylvania doesn't allow ballot referendums, but we're just in an information gathering. There's no like bait and switch. We really are just going around finding out what Pennsylvania is at on the issue.
Okay. Well, I'm for it. I think maybe that the people should make the decision. Like if there was a vote on it, like I said, I think that would help. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. I saw the gentleman in the rear. Would you still like to? Okay.
Hello, my name's Tim, and thank you for coming. Thanks for having us. I believe 80% of statistics are made up, so I can only give you my personal stories with marijuana and how it has helped me. I've heard that it's very addictive, and I don't believe that. I was very fortunate enough to go on a trip to Disney World with my aunt and uncle. My uncle doesn't fly, and he needed me to drive him. They told me I wasn't allowed to bring marijuana with me. Went down the full 7 days, came back just fine. Yeah, it's in a little bit more pain, but I was with my family, so in the magical place on earth. I can give it up for a week. And then my second story is with my grandmother who had a stroke last April. She was in the hospital for a while, and she's home. She stopped eating. She wouldn't eat at all, nothing. And so I was like, I heard this, and I was up there immediately. I was like, hey, Grandma, I have a marijuana cigarette. This can help you eat. She said, why not? She smoked it. Then she asked my grandfather to, hey, give you 2 bowls of spaghetti. She ate 2 bowls. More than she ate in 2 months. I think that's good enough for me. So I'm for it. Make it legal.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Allegheny County. The second of two events, the 62nd county we've gone to, and it's been uniformly civil, so thank you so much. Thank you for coming out on your Saturday. Thank you to your local leaders, too, for coming out and hearing what you have to say. So I have three quick questions for you. Bobby, are you ready? Okay. All those in favor of recreational marijuana usage in Pennsylvania? Aye. Raise your hand. Keep it up so we may document that. Aye. Okay, got that? Okay, now. All those opposed? No. No to marijuana legalization in Pennsylvania. Okay, got that? And then finally, undecided. I'm not sure where we should be. I need more information. I'm unclear. The only two rooms in the entire state, they were both in Allegheny County, with not a single undecided. I don't know what that says. Yeah, I don't know. But once again, thank you guys for coming out. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy Mother's Day.